Hey guys, Rain here. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing a crochet tutorial. So I've been getting a lot of asks, like in person and like online and stuff everywhere. People want to learn to crochet, so they're asking me and they're like, oh, how do I get into it? How do I start? And I've actually taught people in the past, and I've hosted like little one-on-one sessions, but with all the high demand it's kind of hard to do it with everyone, so I thought I might as well just make a video because I actually learned via YouTube videos and I was kind of like self-taught. I had previous experience knitting, but I just knew to crochet and I wanted to try it, so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna research myself, I'm gonna find some videos, look no further. Here's one to learn from. So I'm gonna start like with the basics, and I'll be putting in timestamps so you can like see what each step is basically, and you can jump around for what you need. So for starters, I'm gonna go over like material, what you need for like 100% beginner. You haven't even got a hook yet, like start here. So when I started, I'm doing like from my experience because I find that's like the easiest way to, you know, relate. So when I first started out, I had like old yarn from like past knitting, but I had no hooks. So I went straight to Walmart because that's like the cheapest, right? So I made my way to Walmart and I found their hooks, and they're like the little plastic ones, but they're very reasonably priced. So I started off with that, and they work fine until you get into like the longevity of it, and then you start to get pain. And actually wrist pain is like a big thing with crochet, and like so for me, I get pain here, and like in the fingers from like being like bent. So when I'm holding my hook, oh, it's caught. When I'm holding my hook, this is how I hold it basically. So thumb and pointer finger are pinching right here, the rest of the hand kind of wraps, and my pinkies, like instinctively, they'll just like curl like that. Lots of pain there. So that is a thing to consider when buying a hook. I got a set off, I think, Amazon. I can find it and link it below. So it's like a set with the rubber hooks. There's also a lot of good sellers on Etsy that do custom made ergonomic. Ergonomic is the word to look for because they make the shapes so it fits more with your hand. I'm not too experienced with like different types of crochet hooks. I basically just went on Amazon, found a set that had like the widest size range that I needed, and then I saw that they had the grips, and these have been working great for me. In the past, I tried, I used like rainbow looms over the plastic ones I had from Walmart to try and make my own grips, and that was a choice. It wasn't the best. I also found that the more I tried to DIY like a hook grip, it got bulkier and bulkier, and it was like hurting in a different way. So I'd recommend starting out with like the Walmart ones or something cheaper, just so you know you're like committed, you want to do it before you go and blow a bunch of money on like the good quality ones. And when you're at that level where you're like, oh, I want proper hooks, like my wrist is getting sore, my hand is getting sore, do at least like 10-15 minutes of research before picking one, because you want to get a set that'll last. And as someone who's also a knitter, I find something just fell. I find that knowing, like, paying for the materials, like something that like a hook or needles that you're going to be using all the time, this is where you want to put your money. You want to kind of splurge here just so you have the correct materials, because the worst thing in the world is you're halfway through a project, your plastic hook breaks, or you're realizing, especially with knitting, like because they have the connected needles, it's a whole different thing, but you need different sizes of length between the two needles, and it's a whole mess. And it's much easier when you're crocheting because it's literally just a hook and then different sizes and grip. So when I started out, I did a 5mm or 5.5, somewhere around that range is like the middle ground. Like most of the projects that you want to do, depending on what you're doing, a lot of them will reach this hook size and this weight 4 or RN weight yarn. That's kind of like where you want to start out, where you'll find a lot of like versatility. You can do a lot of stuff with that, and then the more experienced you get, you can go higher or lower in yarn weight and hook size. So yeah, 5 or 5.5 millimeter is going to be your friend. So that's what I have here for the tutorial. And then I have just an old ball of yarn that I have weight for, and I also got the yarn from Walmart. They actually, in my area at least, they have really good yarn that's reasonably priced there, and they have at least a decent selection where I am, and I started out getting all my yarn from Walmart because it was more affordable for me. I know Michael's has a very good selection as well, depending like where you are. So yeah, if you want to start out like inexpensively, I would recommend Walmart first. And I'm trying to think of what brands. I know Bernat Yarn, they have a lot of different like yarn weights and materials. I use mostly like acrylic when I started out, and I still do for a lot of like random projects. Like the last video I did the blanket, and that was mostly acrylic yarn that I had in storage. And then once you're more experienced, you want to get into like cotton or wool if you're making clothes, then you want to go up there. Or you want the like the very thick like blanket kind of yarn for like plushies. I know Bernat also does that. Like they have like the jumbo yarn, so you can kind of branch out from there. But that's a good brand that I quite like. There's also Red Heart. It's just not as soft. So it's their acrylic weight 4 is very, very similar, but Bernat is softer than Red Heart, if that's a thing that is important. I quite like the feeling of this though. Like it's super soft, it's nice to work with, because you want to factor like the yarn for the project you're making, but also when you're working with it, it's going to be touching you a lot. And when it's going through your fingers on your non-dominant hand when you're like holding the yarn, it's going to be rubbing a lot here. So you want something that's not going to be too rough and like giving you like red marks. My skin, I get marks easy and stuff. Like I'll get like dry around where the yarn is. I know some people have also, I've never tried it, but people will use like a little ring that you can loop the yarn through, so then it's not like you don't have to worry about the tension yourself. I kind of do want to try one, but I'm also so used to doing it myself that it may be a tricky switch. So those are kind of the basics for materials. I just have my little container here that I put my stuff in. Stitch markers. I also got most of my plastic ones from Walmart, so it's like a little clip like that, and this is the correct way. The one I got from Walmart ranges in size, so you've got like a bigger one like this, a smaller one. I want to hold like a side by side. So this is your friend. When you're doing projects where you need to count, you want these. You're doing something that's like continuing in the round, not just like an end. You want these because you will need to know where you're placing your stuff. I would also recommend a darning needle. So it's not like a sewing needle, it's actually much bigger and it's used for yarn. You can see like the eye here is much bigger. This is for weaving in your ends or any detail work you want to do with your project. And once again, Walmart. Like when I started out, I just went to the Walmart yarn aisle and I looked around at everything and I was like, okay, I need this, I need that. But the main 4: hook, yarn, stitch markers, and your darning needle. And obviously scissors, but any scissors will do. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I didn't bring any back with me, so I've just been using kitchen scissors and they're working fine. So from there onwards, we're ready to start. We're ready to learn how to use our tools. So okay, so I have my yarn and my hook here, and so first things first, we're going to be doing a slip knot, so we don't even need the hook for this. I know some people have a way of using the hook when doing a slip knot. For me, it's easier to just use. When you're doing a slip knot, I'll just do it at my speed first, and then I'll slow it down and go step by step, but I just kind of, I've been doing this for like almost I think 4 years now, maybe longer. So that's a slip knot. So what makes a slip knot, or where it gets its name from, is basically you've got your loop here. As you pull the longer string, it tightens kind of like a noose, but it's much easier than tying a noose, so that's nice. And so when you pull the smaller string, it immediately unravels and you're not left with a knot, which I love, because the amount of times I've had a giant mess of yarn that I've had to detangle, oh, I've lost track. It's a pain. So to start out, you're going to be having your short end of the yarn on the left and your longer one on the right. So you're going to try and loop it around your pointer finger and grab with your middle and thumb. So I'm just making a loop and then pinching here, holding it with my thumb, and then I'm going to bring from the longer up, over, behind, and through. Oops. I struggle doing these at a slow speed. I make more mistakes doing it slow than doing it the way I did the first time. So yeah, and that's a slip knot. So I'll just do it a couple more times. So over, pinch, up, over, behind, and pull through. And to tighten, you just pull the shorter of the two ends. And a couple more times. Pinch, up, oopsie. Pinch, up, behind, and through. This kind of reminds me of when I was learning to tie my shoelaces. It's kind of, at least similar to me, because I tie my shoelaces the way where you like pull through, pinch, and pull. But yeah, that is a slip knot. If you're still stuck, rewind and just keep going through. It's a learning curve, and practice makes perfect, that old saying. The more you practice, the better you'll get. So once we've got our slip knot, you can go ahead and put your hook right through, and once again pull the long part of the yarn to tighten, and you got your slip knot on your hook. And so my form, I guess, is with my pointer finger, I've got holding the yarn there, and then my middle finger and thumb hold, I guess, the project, and then underneath you can kind of see these two fingers will hold. My pinky is usually the one I rely on the most. It'll like hold tension for me, and I actually have too tight of tension, but I'm working on it. I've gotten a lot better. So this is how I'll hold my work, and then I'm right-handed, so hook in the right hand. And don't make your slip knot too tight on the hook. That's very important. If it's too tight, it's going to be hard to pull through, like pull the yarn through. So next step, we're going to be doing some chains. And so this is like the structure for 90% of the projects you'll make. There is another way of starting a project, but this is the easier one, at least for me, and with most projects, you'll start out this way. So what you're going to do is you're going to pull the yarn over your hook like this. It's called a yarn over. If you're ever watching a tutorial or pattern and you hear them say yarn over, this is what they mean, yarn over. So when it's over the hook, and actually there's two ways that people have done it. So I go, I guess this is behind. Other people will go forward and pull through, but I find it harder. I always go behind. I'm actually not sure the difference. I've only ever done it this way. Let's see, actually. Oh, see, for me it's harder. It could be easier for you. Works the same way. I'm just gonna undo that, go back to the slip knot because I'm struggling. So yeah, I go behind, and then you just pull it straight through that loop that's already on your hook, and that is one chain. And as I do a couple more, same each time, yarn over, pull through. So as I build up my chain, you can see these V's. So the front side are the V's. A lot of times in patterns you'll hear right side, wrong side. So right side is like the side that, if you're making a sweater, for example, the side that's right side is the side that's like the outside. The inside of your sweater would be wrong side. That's just kind of how it works. So right side, for the chain, I would say where the V's are. Wrong side are these bumps on the back. So it's made up of 3 segments. You've got your V, so that are the 2 strands on the front, and then your little bump in the back is like the back part of it. Depending in the future on certain projects, you'll need to know how to use the back bumps, but for now, don't even have to worry about it. We're just doing the basics. So you're going to be chaining 11 to start your first shape, I guess. I'm at 4, and the way you count your chains, each V is a chain, so 1, 2, 3, 4. You never count the yarn that's on your hook. So this loop, you don't count. And I did not know that for a while. So we're at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we're going to be doing rows of 10, but we're going to be doing 11 chains to start because this counts as our chain 1 for turning. So now, we've got our 10 chains and we've been working this way. We're just going to turn it to the side. And now we're ready to start learning our stitches. So now that we're horizontal, we're going to be starting with our first stitch of the video, and we're going to start off with a single crochet because I feel like it's the easiest to kind of get down. You know what, I'm going to actually be putting up right here kind of like a list of the stitches based on like size, if that makes sense. Anyways, chart's up here, and there's actually two terms. There's like the UK terminology and the US terminology. I'm Canadian, so I'm neither, but I use the US because it just made more sense to me when I was learning. But if you're ever doing like a UK tutorial, just make sure you know which one you're following. So for single crochet, we're going to be starting right over here. So this is our 10th chain, and this one right here is the 11th. It's a bit smaller because I pulled the yarn a little. So we're going to be focusing only on our 10th chain. So looking at the 10th chain, it's kind of like a loop of its own. So we're going to be inserting our hook into the loop. You can either go through just the one, or you can try and get the little bump from behind. Doesn't matter, it's the first chain, and usually you won't be focusing too much on it anyways. So you insert your hook, and now we have two bumps. We have what was the one originally on our hook from our chains, and now we have our second one, which is our 10th chain. So this is where we're at. So we're going to yarn over, pull through only the 10th chain, so we're still at 2 loops, and then we're going to yarn over again and pull through both. And that is the first single crochet. So once again, insert your hook, pull through 1, yarn over again, and pull through 2. And we're going to be doing that all the way down. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over again, pull through 2. Insert, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. And as you work up, you can see it's starting to actually take form. This is the first row. So, and sometimes I'll put in a stitch marker at the beginning so I know which is the chain 1 or which is the single crochet, but it's with a simple one like this, it's kind of easy to see. And once again, we've got that V shape. So this is how you know where to insert for the next row, but we'll just keep going and finish here. So just single crocheting all the way down, and I'm trying to go, I crochet quite fast, so I'm trying to go slower, but it's trickier for me to go at a slower pace. Okay, so we're near the end, we have 2 left. So insert, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. And our last one is where our knot is, where we started that slip knot. So just yarn, or sorry, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through 1, and pull through 2. And that is the first row done. So at this point, you're probably thinking, how do I start my second row? Well, we're just gonna chain 1. So same as before, yarn over and just pull through, that's a chain. And now we're gonna turn our work. So we're just gonna turn it all the way, so we're kind of how we started our first row. Our starter is at the right and we're moving towards the left. So it may be obvious to you, it may not, where to insert your hook. You can kind of see these gaps on the side. We're going to be going through, once again, the first one where we started. So you're just going to insert your hook through there, and you're ready to start up again. Pull through one, and we have just the 2 loops, and then pull through 2, and it's a single crochet again. So at this point you can choose to single crochet and just do a bunch of rows until you have kind of a square shape. I'll do one more row of single crochets and then we'll move on to our next stitch. So when I practiced, or when I was starting out, I would do like a square of each stitch, that way I could really master each one. And I didn't learn all of them in the beginning. There's so many. There's like, I think 5 or 6 basic ones, and then there's fancier ones using the 5 or 6 basic ones. It kind of reminds me of like a spider web, at least that's how I visualize it. You've got the center of your web, there's a lot more, and then as it branches out, there's like more and more to do with it. But yeah, I'm only gonna do a couple of the stitches, just the basics, so then when you're trying more complex patterns, you know what to do. So whenever I get to my second row, I used to struggle as a beginner, because this is, we've got 9 out of 10, right? And you have this like weird lump looking thing here. As you continue and make this like longer this way, it won't be as confusing, but I find always my second row, this would confuse me. So I find it easiest to turn, see that V shape, and then you're gonna try and get your hook through both loops of the V. So sometimes I will just like use my finger to pull it onto my hook because it'll get stuck. So that's what I'm gonna do. And when your tension is looser like this, it's much easier. Like I said before, I used to like tie my stitches so tight I could barely get the hook through, and I would just get so mad. So try and be careful of your tension. And yeah, our last single crochet, and there we go, that's 2 rows. So if you're following along with me, congratulations, you're crocheting. You've learned to crochet. I'm gonna start teaching some more stitches. And so we're going to move up to a double crochet, so single, double. It kind of is easier with the US terms, at least for me, because it kind of like, the number is the amount of kind of like loops. I'll explain it better once we get more stitches in, but for me at least, with a single crochet I'll chain 1, with a double I'll chain 2, so that's kind of my, like that's what I connect with it. And usually when you're doing a double crochet, the chain 2 counts as a stitch, so we're gonna actually skip this loop here and move on to the next one. So before we even insert our hook, we're gonna yarn over, which is different than a single crochet because you would just go straight for it. So yeah, yarn over, insert your hook, and then pull 1 through, similar to the single crochet, but this time we have 3 loops. So don't panic, you're doing it right, you should have 3 on your hook. So the way we do this is we'll yarn over again, pull through 2 of them, we're left with 2 like a single crochet, just yarn over and pull through 2. And that is a double crochet. So it's like 2 single crochets in 1 double. I just find it easier to think of it that way. So again, yarn over, insert your hook, pull through 1, you have 3, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And that's a double. And you may be thinking, what happens if when you get to the 3 loops, you don't do it in 2 steps and you just pull through all 3? Great question. This is a half double crochet. So it is actually a stitch. I've done 1, I'll do 1 more. You just pull through all 3 and then boom, you're done. So half double crochet is, I've seen it in a lot of projects as like kind of a favorite. It's kind of in between the single and double, and it's great for working up, say, like the stitches of a sweater. It's quite helpful. So I'm just gonna undo the 2 half doubles because we're just doing a double crochet row, but yeah, you've basically learned kind of like 2 and 1 for this one, which I kind of like. With the double crochet, you have multiple options with it, right? So we're just going to continue along with double crochets, pull through 2, pull through 2, and we're just going to continue all the way down. Oh, so I kind of made a mistake here, which is a perfect teaching moment. Sometimes when you're putting your hook through the V's, you'll accidentally only go through 1 instead of both. So this is used actually in a lot of patterns to make a turn. So if you're think of like you're probably in a house, right? Or like somewhere with a room. Look at the corner of your wall. See how you've got two ends that kind of like meet like that, and there's the corner. This is kind of a way of doing that in crochet. So if you do the front loop, it'll bend this way, or if you do just the back loop, it'll kind of go the other way. So this is used like, I did it in a bucket hat pattern to make the brim bend out that way. That's one way it'll be used. It depends on your pattern. Some you'll never have to do it that way, but I thought I'd just explain that because I did it by accident. But yeah, for this whole segment where we're learning all the stitches, always go through both loops of the V, just to make it like one flat piece, no 3D parts yet. So as we continue, insert, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And we're almost at the end. I like starting with 10 stitches for like a little beginner swatch, because it gives you enough time to like practice 10 times basically. Well, I guess 9 because of a chain, but you have 9 attempts to practice it, and then it's not like too long where you're like, oh, I want to be done this row, you know? So, okay, so we're at our last one. It's kind of easier to see it, like I said before, like it's trickier when you have your second row. Every row after the second row, it's kind of more obvious. So we're going to do one more row of double crochet. So to start your next row, chain 2 and turn. Once again, this chain 2 will count as your first stitch. So then we'll just move into the next one. And it's important as you're working up to see your edges. So you want to see, is it curving in weird? Is it looking odd? Mine looks a bit weird, but sometimes with yarn it also just does that. So I'll finish the row and then we'll double check the sides again to make sure it's looking correct. So I'm just going to go a bit faster here. See, I'm not used to like crocheting and showing it like first person. So I've got my tripod here, and I'm also new with the tripod, and I keep hitting it because it's just literally in my space. Like I've got a pole in front of my nose and I'm like looking over it, and it's a little tricky. So if I'm lining stuff up weird, that is why. So we're gonna count to double check. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So we have our end here, and this is the chain 2 from before, and it's gonna look different than like inserting your hook into a double crochet. It looks wonky, which is normal, unfortunately. So you can kind of see, if you turn it this way, you can see the 2 V's of the chain. So what you're gonna want to do, you're going for the top V, but on the other side you only kind of see the bumps, so it's hard to see exactly where you're going. I can kind of tell because I've done this for a while. It's right here, so there's like 1, 2, we're going in the top one. It may be harder with yours. No worries, just like turn it over, try and find your V's. You can even have it with the V's facing and then try and insert your hook that way. And finish our last double crochet. I also did want to mention, when you're starting out, the color of your yarn doesn't matter, but you want a lighter yarn so you can see what you're doing. It's kind of a running joke in the crochet and knit community that black yarn is like the worst because you're just crocheting in the dark, it's hard to see. Have something lighter so you can see what you're doing, and it will be a huge lifesaver. So when you want to take your hook out of your project to like take a peek and practice, I'll pull through a bit just to give that extra, so in case if it does pull through, it won't immediately unravel. You can also pop in a stitch marker to mark it, and I'll actually just do that to show. Oh, yeah, again with the tripod. So I have my container, I've got all my stitch markers and darning needles in here. So I guess this will show how to use it. I find it pretty straightforward using these. You just hook your little loop through and pop it in kind of like a safety pin. but way less stabby. And then if you pull all the way, it holds it in place so you don't have it unravel, and then when you want to get the loop again, you just pull that. So super handy. So looking at our little rectangle here, it does look a bit wonky, but we have the correct amount of stitches. So remember, if you're starting with like a certain amount of stitches, always count every now and then so you know you're not missing one. When I do a big project, I get lazy and I forget to count, and then 20 rows down I've made a mistake. Like I'm like halfway through the project, but 20 rows ago I missed a stitch, or I put too many stitches, and I have to unravel those 20 rows and fix it, or, you know, figure out something else. But I'm just pulling these ends a bit so you can see where we are. And having straight edges is one way to see if you're doing it right. So if yours looks similar to mine, you've got like the correct amount of stitches and straight edges, congrats, you're doing amazing. If not, just do some counting and see where you might have messed up. Usually, it's kind of like, it'll look like triangular almost, right? So if your project is going in more this way, you've probably missed a stitch. If it's going out, you've probably got a couple too many. So counting is a big part of crochet. So get to counting if you need to. If not, we're going to continue on. So next, I'm going to do 2 rows. I already showed it, but I'll show again. A half double crochet. We're going to do 2 rows of that just to show that stitch again. But since you've already mastered the double crochet, you should find this to be a breeze. So some people will chain 2 for a half double, some will chain 1. I do 1. And since I'm doing 1, I don't have to like count this as 1. I can go straight into that first stitch, which is why I like to do it, because I like the first stitch. I think some people even don't chain. They'll just leave it as is, turn their work, and pop in a half double crochet. I'm just curious what happens. I don't do that often. Yeah, it's the same, but I like to chain, so I'm gonna do a chain 1, turn, and yarn over. Insert your hook into your first gap, yarn over, pull through, and you should have 3 once again. Yarn over, pull through all 3. Once again, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over again, and then yarn over, pull through all 3. And you can notice that a double crochet and a half double look kind of different. And the reason for that is you're pulling through all 3, so you see all 3 loops pulled through. With a double, it's pull through 2, so just different lengths and structures. So we're gonna do only 1 row of half double crochet, just because I don't feel like doing 2 rows. If you want to do 2 or more to practice, totally okay. Just pause the video and I'll meet you when you're ready. And for me, since I'm doing 10, I gotta make sure I've got 10 at the end of this row. And getting in the habit of like double checking and counting, especially when you're starting out, is a great thing to do. Oh, here we are with the chain 2 having an issue. So try and find that top chain, put your hook through, and there we go. So let's see. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So for me, I'm just gonna pull that out. For me, when I count the actual bunches here. You can also count the V's. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Never count the one on your hook. But you can count the V's and it's the exact same. For beginners, it's easier to count the V because then you can see what you're working with, but for me, I'll just do the little bunches. Up to you, there's just multiple ways of doing things, which is one of the things I love about crochet. You can just do it your own way and figure out what works for you. So, our next stitch is going to be a treble crochet. So, treble is, in the UK terms, they use that word a lot. To me, it means triple, but like, it doesn't for everyone else, but I call like this next stitch a treble crochet because 3, and you're gonna see why. So we're gonna chain 3 to start. 1, 2, 3, and once again turn our work. So chain 3 counts as a stitch, so we're gonna skip this one, work here. So, remember with the double crochet, we'd yarn over and then insert? We're gonna yarn over twice. So you should have 3 loops on your hook at this point after your double yarn over. Then we're gonna insert our hook and pull through. And so, oh, I've split my yarn. There we go. That is another common thing you'll run into. Sometimes you'll grab a little strand from a previous row and notice that things aren't like coming through properly. Just take a moment and see what's going on. I split my yarn all the time and it drives me insane. So at this point, we have 4 loops on our hook. And so with our treble crochet, we're going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So notice how we've got 3 pull throughs and 3 loops at the beginning, 3 and 3. That's kind of where it gets its name from. So 3 loops on the hook, so yarn over twice, should have 3, insert your hook, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And that is the treble crochet. And so you can see how there's more of like a gap in between the stitches compared to like a double or a half double. This is common. Don't worry, it's supposed to be like that. Treble crochets, I've seen, they're used a lot in, if you remember or if you've seen those mesh crochet tops, they were trending I think last summer. I made I think 1 or 2 myself. This stitch comes in really handy for that. So we're going to continue on down and continue our treble crocheting. I'm just going to go at my speed now just to get a little, like done a little faster. And, oh, I'm going to take this time while I'm going through to say, oops, I forgot to yarn over twice. If you have any questions at all or you're stuck on something, feel free to ask questions in the comments and I will do my best to answer them. I'm pretty good at answering, it just takes a couple of days because I don't check as frequently as I should. I'm much more active on my Instagram though, so if you have any issues at all, shoot me a DM on Instagram and I'm more than happy to help out and try and help you. Also, if there are any other things you guys want to see, like any other tutorials, leave a comment for any video suggestions. Comments are the best way to reach out for that, but if you need help with crochet, comment or Instagram DM. And here we are at our last stitch. So those are the treble crochets. So those were some of the basic stitches. I'm gonna go over one more, but these were the main ones. So congrats if you made it this far. You're pretty much a pro now. You know a lot of the stitches, and you should be able to make your way through patterns knowing the stitches. Anyways, we're gonna go on to our last stitch. So we're gonna chain 1, and this one is called a slip stitch. So it's very similar to a single crochet. This can be used like if you're doing the edge of a project, you want to make it look like neater. Like say you've got the sides like this and you don't like the look of it, you'll just go through and slip stitch. So I'm just going to do the top here because it's much easier to see, and then I'm going to go down the side to make it nicer. So we're going to go in this one, so no yarn over here, similar to a single crochet. Insert your hook, pull through, and you'll have 2 loops. We're not yarning over again, so we're just actually going to take this first loop and pull it, or the second loop, sorry, and pull it through the first one. Oh no, it's stuck again. Okay. And that is a slip stitch. So no yarning over except for here, right? But no yarning over after, which is what makes it different than the other stitches. So it's just pulling through like that. Kind of like a chain is one way to relate it. It's basically, yeah, it is basically a chain. So it's just doing a chain, but on the actual row. So we're just gonna go along the top and slip stitch. And whenever I slip stitch, it's always on the sides. I never get to do it on the top like this. It's much nicer up here because you have clear stitches. When you're doing, so we've got the row done. When you're doing the sides here, it's kind of harder, but I'll go through that. So our top kind of has a bit of like we ended at the treble, but now we have like a bit more of a space than we would before. Kind of explaining this part weird, but you get the idea. Single crochet all the way, and we're gonna turn here and chain again. Every corner you're gonna want to chain. So for me, for when I'm doing like a side, I like to do as many single crochets as stitches. So treble crochet I try and fit at least 2 or 3. So we'll start, oops, with the first stitch. 1, oops. It's really hard to get your hook in sometimes, so no worries if you're struggling. I still struggle. 2 and 3. So 3 slip stitches can fit in a treble crochet, and that chain, the extra one we did, is important because that's kind of making up our corner. So here we are at a half double. I usually just fit 1, so I'm just gonna go in here, try and insert my hook, pull through. So that's for a half double. So then we have 2 double crochets here now. So you can kind of see 1 and 2 here. You're just gonna insert. And so if you don't insert your hook into an actual stitch, you do it in a gap, like so. This is something you can do, but you can only ever do 1 in a gap, because watch what happens when I try and do a second slip stitch in this gap. I'll pull through again, and I'm starting to chain upwards. So if you just continue and go into another gap, it should be fine, but I like to always do it in the actual loop there. That's just my personal preference. You can try it the other way, see what you like. So yeah, here's the second slip stitch for the double, and for our next double, same thing, 2 slip stitches. And now we just have 2 single crochets. So this is like a single crochet right here, and this is a gap between 2. It's kind of hard to see. So you can put it in the gap there for the single, or you can do it through the actual stitch. I like to do in the gap for singles because it's always ever 1. And it's just easier for me personally, because with a single crochet they're much tighter and I don't like jamming my hook through, it's annoying. So here's our edge. You can see it looks much neater than the other side. So if you're doing like your first ever little test swatch or a square, and you want to keep this to be like, oh, it's the first thing I ever crocheted, I would recommend slip stitching all the way around, so you've got a neat little square you can like keep and be proud of. Because I would be, so we're just going to chain 1, insert our hook into the first slip stitch, and to connect it, slip stitch there, and then pull our yarn. And so here you can cut your yarn and weave in your ends. I'll just take a moment to look at our little square. Look at that, our first swatch. I'm not going to cut this because I'm going to reuse my yarn, but I'll show you guys how to weave in your ends with this end here. So get your darning needle, and I find that where I've cut, sometimes they'll like unwind, so you can see how it's multiple little strands. Just find the way it twists and retwist it kind of into a point. You can see it's coming back together. So what I'll do when I'm threading a darning needle is I'll twist as much as I can and then pinch it so it's like flat, and then I line up the eye with the stuff I've pinched and I just kind of push it through as best as I can. And you threaded that needle, and just make sure you don't pull too hard or the end will pull right out. So now we've threaded the needle, we're gonna go in. And since I have such a short piece, I'm just going to show you how I would do it, like by using the needle and then threading it. So you've got all your V's here. I like to, which way is it? When you're threading your ends through V's, you go in from the outside and then you just kind of keep doing it for each one. Oh my goodness. Normally I'd use a smaller darning needle, but I'm using the big one so you guys can see better, but it's kind of harder. So you're just going to go all the way down and just keep looping them, kind of like that. It's much easier, I find, to do it this way and loop them all at once than doing one at a time and pulling through. I just find it's a lot less effort for me personally. So I'm just rethreading that now because it's easier. So I've got my needle through where I want it. I've got this through the needle. I'm just gonna pull. And this part is a bit hard pulling it, so I'll just pull all of the stitches through so I can get the needle out, and then I'll pull at the end that's gonna come out. And then see it's all scrunched, just pull that to pull it in. And now it's mostly hidden. So we've got our ends woven in. And that is it for my little tutorial. But yeah, if you've made it this far, congrats! You've learned how to crochet, you've made your first piece, and you should feel very proud of yourself. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said earlier, leave a comment if you have a question about crochet, or you've gotten stuck somewhere and you need my help. Drop a comment or Instagram DM if you have more questions about crochet. And if you have other videos you want to see, like with crochet, you have a certain project you want me to do, drop a comment leaving a recommendation and I will try my best to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and happy crocheting!